Welcome to Coffee, Eggs and Inspiration. It's a weekly show that goes out over YouTube and as a podcast over all of the major channels. And each week I get to sit with an inspiring person and listen to them tell their story and share it with all of you. This week is no different. I'm joined by Steph Capuano. Welcome, Steph.
Thank you.
Steph is an entrepreneur with an amazing couple of businesses actually, and a really interesting story that I thought was well worth sharing. She's the founder and CEO of 31st State, which is a California-inspired skincare range targeted at boys, Generation Z boys. So we'll talk about that. She also has a second company, as if one isn't enough, and three, it's called. They do luxury safaris in Southern and Eastern Africa. Background in PR for many years. Grew up in California, now lives like me as an immigrant in the UK, and has many interests outside of all of these pursuits. But very, very interesting path, starting in the world of PR and then moving into entrepreneurship. A story well worth telling. So Steph, tell me where the idea came from for 31st State.
Okay, it was pretty straightforward actually. Being a mother of two teenage boys, they basically started to smell and start to get spots, as they call them here in England. And I was very stumped about what to give them, because here I was feeding them, natural products in food and taking the chemicals out of our household cleaning products, giving them the best organic food. Suddenly they were 13 and 14, needing deodorant, needing to shower, and everything on the market geared toward them was filled with chemicals.
Right.
And I couldn't find anything that was healthier, but that was stylish and aspirational for guys in their generation who really care about not only their looks, but what brands they use. And they're these young entrepreneurial guys that are wearing all these cool brands, and then to give them natural deodorant with lavender on it just didn't work.
Right.
So I did a lot of research, and
what was the research? What did you do?
Yeah, well, some of it was just anecdotal, like spending a lot of time at Boots on the high street to look at sort of the mainstream big, the options coming from the big companies, and then I did research in the smaller, more niche chemists and pharmacies to see what the smaller brands were putting out. And it was either chemicals or so natural. There was nothing in between that was stylish but natural. And I would ask a lot of friends. They all felt they would want to use it too for their boys. But a good friend, who you probably know, she is a big marketeer, and said to me, you can't rest on just your opinion and the opinions of your friends, because they're going to tell you what you want to hear.
Right.
So let's put it to a focus group. So before I even spent time, Jane Hunter Walsh.
Shout out to Jane.
Jane, thanks. She's brilliant. She's been a great mentor. But she rightly suggested putting it out to people we don't know. And so we did focus groups with mothers and sons in London from a variety of demographics.
And was that with a product? Did you have a product at the time?
No, we had nothing. We had a concept, but it was more understanding, what do you currently use? What do you like about it? Do you care about environmentally friendly products? Where does that sit in your list of criteria when you buy something? How much money would you spend to have something that's a little healthier?
Yeah.
Are you cynical about all these labels like vegan, eco-friendly, planet-friendly? So we just wanted to determine if it was just me and my friends in our little world in London, or if there was something bigger. And what we learned was boys are super aware of the importance of looking after the environment. They're members of Gen Z, and they massively care about the climate crisis. But it hadn't really translated into their product choices.
Right.
They were very much like, we just want it to work.
Yeah.
And we want it to look cool.
So what are some examples of chemicals that are in some brands that are sort of polluting or not friendly?
Well, for example, with deodorant, the big thing is aluminium, as you say here. And it's a questionable one, but the debate is that, here it is causing cancer potentially in women, and it does have the same effect on men in your most porous organ. And here are guys spraying it all over their bodies.
Right.
So there's that, and then there are like the the chemicals that create foaming action, SLS and SLES, those are highly toxic, and there's evidence that shows that it's increasingly disrupting hormones in boys and girls. So for boys, and again, this is all new evidence, but it's out there that it is causing infertility in young men.
Wow.
And so our point was, why not just take it out? If it's questionable, why continue to spray? Like on our food, I grew up in California in the 70s and 80s when they started spraying all of the crops with pesticides. And what we've learned is that it's caused cancer. So if you have a choice, why not take it out? So
fair enough. And it's not just the sustainability angle, is it? It's also vegan. Yeah. But what I found really, really interesting about the category, we've got a lot of it at home, by the way.
I know,
two teenage boys myself. Is that it really sort of smashed the stereotypes of alpha males, and it totally turned a category on its head that was rather orientated at the time to girls or unisex, some sort of neutral thing, right? And was that a deliberate?
Well, it was deliberate because, part of it is I live with these boys and all their friends, your son, and all these kids in our car all the time and taking them around. And I would sit and listen to them and what they care about and how they live their lives. And what I saw in the category is that in the clean beauty space, let's call it, there were things for babies and young children, and there were things for teenage girls and things for men and women.
Right.
But there wasn't anything for these guys who increasingly, between the ages of, let's say, 12 and 18, really start caring about their image, taking care of themselves. Yeah. Whether they're into boys or girls, you suddenly are aware of yourself, your sexuality, your image, and they care. And they start grooming, and we felt like they were just totally left out of the discussion of those troublesome years, let's call it, the choppy waters of adolescence. There's so much talk about girls and their body image in those years, but nobody was talking about the boys and how hard it is for them to navigate it. So on a much deeper level, I felt like these boys are left out of this, from an emotional standpoint. But on a very surface level, there just weren't products that were serving them that met my requirements of giving them healthier products and things that they actually wanted to use and thought were cool. And it's very much a niche, but what's been interesting is, the men's grooming market is booming. Yeah. Within it, the clean category is booming. Yeah. And now what we're seeing is people are targeting boys at a much younger age. And so we're thrilled that we were in early. I would almost say that we felt we were too early, but then this sort of product market fit arrived.
Caught the wave.
We caught the wave. And so now we feel proud because there are other people coming to market, and people always say, are you stressed that you have competitors now? And yes, it is stressful, but at the same time, I think it's a testament that this is a market people are paying attention to.
Kind of legitimized the category.
Yeah, totally. I hope that answers the question.
Absolutely it does. And it's really exploded. You did about 2 years of research and then launched about 2 years ago, year 3 now. Yeah. And it's exploded. You do direct to consumer, so I'll put the link below.
Thanks.
Sounds like an infomercial. It's not meant to be.
That's okay.
But I will put the link below. But you're also in retailers. You're in ASOS. You're in Free People. Urban Outfitters is coming on board. Lots of others. Did you find it difficult to have a combination of that direct to consumer and retail? Did the retailers feel uneasy about that?
Yeah, it was interesting because when we launched it, I had this vision and I was interviewing all these entrepreneurs and investors who had invested in subscription models like Dollar Shave Club and these billion-dollar companies. And I had this image in my head that a mother would sign up for it or a guy would sign up for it and it just got delivered every 6 weeks. It's sort of your grooming solutions. What we found was that starting from scratch in a new sector, we'll call it clean beauty for Gen Z, was a lot more work to get organic customers. And so our direct-to-consumer business kept growing and growing, and it's been great. But we run the market about 4 months. Our idea was to be direct-to-consumer only.
Right.
Make a bunch of money and serve this category and, move on. But anyway, ASOS came to us about 4 months after we launched. They found us, which was amazing. And for them, we went to their headquarters and it felt so exciting, and it wasn't what we had planned. But the minute I walked in there and it was just filled with young people, I was like, these are my people. These are the people using our products. They totally got it. And when I said to her, how did you find us and why are you interested in us? I was thinking it was the packaging, because I'll tell you about our whole packaging journey. Yeah. It's quite an interesting one. I thought it was about the ingredients I thought it was going to be more about the design of the products. And she said, no, it's vegan. And we have a really hard time finding really cool vegan products for Gen Z guys. Yeah. There's a lot out there for girls and men and women, but it was very unique to us that you were really serving this niche demographic. Yeah. And that really legitimized our business so early on. It was really the moment for distribution. It gave us some scale really early. They've been a great customer for 2 years, and that continues to grow. I think in my boys' eyes, that was the moment that they were like, oh, okay, she's not such a dork. She kind of doesn't know what she's doing. So I think it legitimized it for a lot of people.
For sure, yeah. ASOS.
Because ASOS is so cool.
It's a cool company, very progressive. Shout out to exactly. ASOS as well. You mentioned packaging. What's the story there?
Okay, so with packaging, I knew nothing about packaging. My background was, I was in PR in the pharmaceutical industry. We take very complex medical studies and rewrite them and present them to the press, and teach CEOs how to talk to the press in 3 bullet points and to stay on message about what it is their study did. So it was pretty high level synthesizing of information. Yeah. So I knew nothing. People thought because I worked in the pharmaceutical industry, I knew everything about developing products and launching them. I didn't. I knew how to sell them to the media, but anyway, we probably interviewed 10 design companies in London. And the 10th one, every single one we went to, I felt like the concepts they were presenting were things I'd see on my husband's shelf. And I just, they were nice and they were sophisticated, but there was nothing that felt like my kids, my teenage boys, who are these pretty hip, cool boys. They're, selling their stuff on Depop and wearing cool brands, and nothing resonated with me. And on the last one, the woman I'd hired to sort of guide me through this process, a product development consultant, she's like, now these guys, they've never done beauty. I don't know what to expect, but they've done Adidas, they do stuff for Nike, they do Beats, they do Smirnoff, all these brands that my boys would know. I was like, all right, let's go. And we literally went in, and it was one of their first offices, this shoebox in Hoxton or Hackney Wick. And I was like, this is so dangerous, but this feels so good. The minute I couldn't stop smiling, I was just looking around like, this is the coolest place. These guys, they were like kids to me, but they were amazing. And it would almost be like if Jake was in there designing for me. It was, I think the graphic designer was 22 years old. Really? And I loved it. They did something totally different that you didn't see in beauty. They hand drew a font. They created the font from scratch based on vintage surf posters from the 60s in California. That was the inspiration, and then they trademarked our font, and it looks very different than what you'd see for beauty. Amazing. But it's cool and different, and so it does stand apart on shelf, which we're thrilled about. And it was probably my most dangerous hire. Yeah. But I loved it, and we did have one major mistake in all of it, is that we were about to launch it or send it to manufacturing. We had the prototype, and a friend of mine she was very senior in the retail business, and she worked for Victoria's Secret. She was the president out in Ohio, and her husband's a big private equity guy in the consumer goods area. And they were kind of, let's say, mentoring me through the whole process, always looking at logos and concepts and giving me direction. And her husband came to dinner one night, Friday before we were about to manufacture on a Monday, now 3 years ago. And I was like, look at, here it is, here's the prototype. And he was like, this isn't what you told me you were making. He's like, that looks like someone at Boots in Nottingham made that. Oh, that doesn't look like some cool brand from, I was devastated. And granted, we were all drinking, and I was like, did he just say that? And the next morning I woke up and I was like, oh my God, I think I have to redesign everything. And he called me and he said, I'm so sorry, that was too straightforward. I was like, no, you know what? I feel relieved. It wasn't the brand. that we talked about. And I stayed on this track to like meet a timeline to approve design concepts because we wanted to stay on our timeline. But it wasn't what I wanted, and it wasn't right. And I didn't feel pride showing it to people. I wasn't like, this is my brand. I was like, this is our brand. Now, when I show it to people, I'm like, this is what we made. And I'm so proud of it. But I called the guys on Monday morning. I was like, we stopped press. We need to redesign. Really? It's not what I want. 16,000 pounds later. I keep teasing my friend. I'm like, you owe me 16 grand. But I had to do
That's a bold move, and would have interrupted your schedule.
Oh, did. We delayed us 9 months.
Wow.
9 months. Because then we had to get approval all over again on all the new designs. And anyway, this is long, but you could. Yeah, so it was one of the most expensive mistakes, but best mistakes we made was to totally scrap it and start over. And that's when these guys got really creative and literally hand drew this font, and we love it now, and it's sort of this iconic look within the category that people aren't doing, certainly weren't doing. So it's fun. It's just totally. We wanted it to be more like a lifestyle product, rather than your deodorant or your body wash.
It certainly stands out on our shelves.
Oh, well, thanks.
I think the other thing that's cool that you've done a lot of sort of, I wouldn't call it scrappy, but really innovative marketing around it. You've got a blog on the site, which is kind of a lifestyle blog. And it's not written by people like you and me, right? It's written by this demographic. And you've got some ambassadors. You've got a skateboarder in there, a tennis player, a footballer. Talk to me about the marketing strategy.
Yeah, so yes, scrappy is the name of the game because we spent all our money getting it to market, and it's really expensive to develop skincare products, and you pay everything up front and then you sit on your stock. So there was that's where all our resources went to. And we needed to have them be very well made. They needed to work. So we spent a lot of money on that, and we had no money to market, no money for PR. I did have a PR agency help me at the beginning. They were amazing, these guys, White London. And they were great, just super scrappy and flexible with me and super creative. And through them, we found some really cool young ambassadors that are members of this generation, up-and-coming tennis player, a vegan freestyle football player, and a skateboarder. And they all kind of embodied the life that we were channeling. And so so we had them from the start. And then what we did is I kept asking my kids and their friends, all these people that were always in my car or sitting around my kitchen table or around my house drinking, all these questions about their life and how they groom. And what I realized is I can't, I'm not going to disclose my age on here, but I'm a middle-aged woman. I can't represent them. And I never wanted it to be like a mom brand. I wanted it to be their brand. So we turned over kind of the marketing, but all the content creation to them. So I have a lot of interns, as you know. It's scary, and they are a pain in the ass to manage, as we know from parenting now. But these kids have so much, I'm sorry to call them kids, young people have so much to offer. They are so interesting, they're so bright, people don't give them enough credit. They are, in one breath, immature, and in the next breath, so insightful and wise that you can't even believe what comes out of their mouths. And part of it is they're so unadulterated, they're not protecting themselves, they just say what's on their mind, and it's so powerful. And so we wanted to capture that. So our photography is done by members of this generation. All of our blogs are written by, if you want to write blogs, call me.
Links below.
We do. We are open to anybody. And the topics are everything that they carry as a generation. So these kids are writing about everything from mental health to rape on campus, to the Me Too movement, to drug use, to academic pressure, to careers, climate crisis. It's massive for them, what they're facing. So it's just been really profound for us to hear from them because, I could write a blog about how to take care of your skin, but nobody cares. Like, you can go to GQ to find that out, And what I love about the platform we've created is it's their voice. And we're young and we're starting out, but we're growing, and we have this growing team of people writing for us and photographing for us. And we're working on a new project called the Choice Project, which after you have to go to the meeting for that, but it's a photography project involving this generation, which will be really cool. We hope to launch it in June. So it's just been a really powerful way to market.
Interesting. Yeah, I mean, you're really sort of walking the talk and living the brand.
We try to, yeah.
And bold choices. I want to switch gears here. I mean, we haven't even talked about the other company, And3, which is a luxury safari company.
Yeah.
Two very different businesses, and you were doing these almost in parallel, right? And this was after having been in PR for 12 years.
Yeah.
And then a break for raising 2 kids.
3. Don't forget Claudia.
Oh,
I do have a daughter, but no one talks about her because she's the daughter.
The 2 boys,
she's 14, yeah.
I know the 2 boys, but
she's got a lot
three
to say.
kids. How did that feel? You know, not only was it a massive pivot from a professional point of view, jumping off the deep end and starting your own company, actually not 1 but 2 at the same time. But also transitioning out of that phase back into work. How did that feel?
I have so many things to say, and I've never felt more empathetic with women my age who we were raised to have a voice and an opinion and a career, and we all went and had these dynamic careers, and then you have children, and it's a crisis about leaving them. And I worked for Ketchum Public Relations for 12 years. They were amazing, and I grew in the ranks from an assistant up to a vice president in their healthcare group over in this country. I was in San Francisco, New York, and then London with them, and sort of grew up with the company, and they were amazing and trying to find the right role for me when I went on maternity leave. And it just ultimately didn't work because we know in a service industry like PR, you don't own your time.
Yeah.
So it just didn't work, but they were incredible with me, and I've stayed good friends with them. And one of my great mentors, this guy, David Gallagher, who's still part of Omnicom, has guided me through my whole career and personal life. And, so I've taken with me.
Thank you, David.
Thanks, David. He's been amazing. And it was really hard to make the decision to stop working after this really successful career. Yeah. But I also knew it was such a gift to have those years with my kids. And it's a very hard decision for women, and you cannot underestimate it. And so I kind of stopped out. I had a long couple of gap years watching the kids and helping, get them on their feet. And that was, as I said, just a gift. But I did hit this point where I felt, not that my job is done, because as we know, the age of our teens now, we've never been more fraught with guiding them through adolescence and the decisions they're making and all those things. But I also got to this point where I felt like my self-worth was challenged. I felt like I need to do something for me again. And my navigation back into the workplace was actually a fashion designer, Dura Olu, which we didn't have on here. I did a short stint working in fashion for this really cool British Nigerian designer. And I was one of his customers, and he kept saying, you have this creativity in you, you're not doing, you could be doing more. And, I didn't know how to get back into working, but he was like, come work for me. I'll pay you in clothes and do my PR and help me with the buyers. And I loved it just to be around grown-ups again and to be around somebody who was so creative. I mean, he's just a brilliant creative man, and he's African, and I love Africa, and so that was really cool. And I did that for about 1.5 years, and then another friend asked me to help her grow her African safari company.
Right.
And, anything having to do with Africa, I'm in. I just think it's such a spiritual place. It really speaks to me. I don't know, it's such a moving place. And so I helped her grow her business for a couple of years.
Yeah.
And in that time is when I thought of doing all this stuff with the boys, like all these, I never thought I'm going to be a brand founder in the skincare business.
Yeah.
Never in a million years did I think I was going to do that. Yeah. But it came from a place of need. And it's been interesting because, I come in contact with so many female founders now, and female-run businesses, and read a lot about, what makes a successful business. And so many of them are founded because they come from a place of need.
Right.
And therefore, they're many times founded by a woman who's running the household.
Yeah.
Because we're the purchasers, and we know what we need and what's missing. And so with 31st State, it really came from a place of need. Anyway, so then I started, doing the background work, all while doing the safari business. And there was a moment in all of that where the company I was working for sort of disbanded, but I had brought on 2 great friends, one in New York and one in Sydney, to help me grow that safari business.
Right.
And they were like, Steph, we got to keep going, let's go. And I'm like, I'm about to launch this other business. And I thought it was perfect timing to just sort of transition out of Africa.
Oh, okay.
And into 31st State. But these girls were like, you got us into Africa. We need you. Yeah. We need you for the connections with all the people you've met over the years. And I was like, great, okay, let's launch this. And anyway, it just transitioned to doing both.
Yeah.
And there are moments where it's way too much. But at the same time, I really feel strongly that if you put all your focus into one thing and all you do is concentrate on one thing, you totally lose your creativity.
Right.
And what I love about the Africa business is that hospitality is such a different thing than what I'm doing. Yeah. They're both service oriented, but it gives me so much creativity and it's so good for my soul that I don't want to give it up.
I think they call that cognitive switching, when you sort of going backwards and forwards between it.
Yeah, you do it because you've got your record label and you've got this job and
a little bit. Well, it's a spice of life, isn't it?
Yeah,
a little bit of
exactly.
variety. Yeah, look, I talked to my wife about this, and all families go through this calculus, right, of getting the balance right. And what I hear, I mean, we chose, in our case, for me to continue working, for her to be at home. And I know quite a few stay-at-home dads as well. Yeah. And what I hear from the people I talk to is that there's this sort of, on the one hand, amazingly fulfilling, busy, incredibly difficult occupation, but at the same time, from a professional point of view, a loss of confidence.
Totally.
Right. And
100%.
so how did the confidence rebuild for you? How did was it just getting back into things?
It was, and it was such a crisis. And I hear this from every friend that tries to go back into the workplace. And so I appreciate businesses who champion women coming back so much. Like my staff we're all women and a bunch of teenagers. Right. And it is women who have come back into the workforce. And I'm so proud of that because they have so much to offer. But it's baby steps. You sort of have to take these small bites and start taking bigger bites to as you grow and to get more confidence, because you forget you actually are smart and you have a lot to offer. Yeah. But you're so used to like cleaning the house and doing the dishes and driving kids to cricket that you forget you have more to offer. Yeah. And I think it just takes time. Yeah. And I think you have to throw as a woman, I found with me, I had to throw myself back into going to networking things, going to talks, putting yourself out there. And many times you're in a room full of men who never stopped out of life to raise the kids, who have much more confidence. And it takes a lot to remember, I'm just as smart as him. Yeah. I just took a gap years, Probably
in many cases a bit smarter.
I don't know about that.
The jeopardy of hubris.
Yeah.
What a great note to end on. Think about the people who are watching or listening. Maybe there's some young people, our kids' ages, thinking about what comes next. Maybe there's some people more of our generation thinking about their next pivot. What would your advice be?
Gosh, that's a hard one. I would say for the kids, go for it. I mean, you guys are in such a unique position. You're the next generation of voters, consumers, leaders, and you're 40% of, they're 40% of consumer revenues at the moment. You are in such a unique position to make change. And I think you just go for it. Be bold, be brave, be humble, but go for it. And I would say for our generation is, in terms of navigating life with these kids, they have a lot to offer. Let's not discount them. They need our guidance, but boy, do they have a lot of unadulterated views we should be listening to. And I think in terms of navigating our next step is you have to be brave too, and just take baby steps and go for it. We don't always know what we're doing, but
have a go.
Have a go.
Well,
exactly.
Your story is very inspirational to me.
You.
I think the businesses are wonderful, and you're the epitome of entrepreneurial courage.
Thank you.
So,
well, that's very nice.
Thank you very much for joining me.
Thank you. Thanks, Greg. Thanks. Thank you.